Hi there, super friends. It's Mrs. Titus, and I'm here to read you guys a book today. It's called Extra Yarn by Mark Barnett. That means he is the author of the book. He wrote the words. And it's illustrated by John Clausen, and that means that John drew the pictures to the book. Here is my front cover. Here's my back cover. Here is the spine. Let's open it up and read about extra yarn. Since we're talking about clothing this week and how clothing is made in cloth, I felt like it was a good idea to discuss yarn because we can turn yarn into so many different types of clothing. So here we go. Let's sit up, turn on those watching eyes, listening ears, calm and safe bodies, super friends. On a cold afternoon in a cold little town where everywhere you looked was either the white of snow or the black of soot from chimneys, Annabelle found a box filled with yarn of every color. So she went home and she knit herself a sweater. And when Annabelle was done, she still had some extra yarn. So she knit a sweater for Mars, too. Mars is her puppy right here. Isn't that a cute sweater? But there was still some extra yarn. When Annabelle and Mars went for a walk, Nate pointed and laughed. He said, "You two look ridiculous." "You're just jealous," said Annabelle. "No, I'm not," said Nate. Look, Nate is not being a super friend right now, is he? Neither is his dog. But it turns out Nate really was jealous. Annabelle made him his own sweater, didn't he? And even after she'd made a sweater for Nate and his dog and for herself and Mars, she still had extra yarn. At school, Annabelle's classmates could not stop talking about her sweater. "Quiet!" shouted Mr. Norman. "Quiet, everyone! Annabelle, that sweater of yours is a terrible distraction. I cannot teach with everyone turning around to look at you." "Well, then I'll knit one for everyone," said Annabelle. "That way they won't have to turn around. They'll have their own." You know what I think Annabelle is doing here? I'm noticing something that we've talked about in school this week, and it's having fun with friends. She's trying to make sure her friends are included so that they're all the same and get to have fun together. I'm also noticing that Annabelle enjoys knitting. So she is also sharpening the saw. Remember our 7 habits and how the 7th habit is about finding things that you really love to do that make you feel good inside and make you feel really amazing. I think that Annabelle is learning that knitting makes her really happy, and making things for other people also makes her very happy. So it turns out she could knit a sweater for everyone in class, and she did, even for Mr. Norman. When she was done, Annabelle still had extra yarn. So she knit some sweaters for her mom and dad, and Mr. Pendleton, and Mrs. Pendleton, and Dr. Palmer, and little Louis. She ended up making sweaters for everyone in town except for Mr. Crabtree, who never wore sweaters or even pants. He only wore shorts up to his knees. "No sweater for me, thanks," said Mr. Crabtree. So she made him a hat instead. And even then, Annabelle still had extra yarn. She made sweaters for all the dogs and all the cats and all the other animals in town as well. Soon, people thought, soon Annabelle will run out of yarn. But it turned out she didn't. So Annabelle made sweaters for things that didn't even wear sweaters. What kinds of things do you see here wearing a sweater that doesn't usually wear a sweater? I hope I'm hearing you say a house. I've never seen a house wearing a sweater. And a mailbox. I've never seen that either. How about a birdhouse? That's very unique. But do you know what I remember about all of the houses in town before? They were all black and they were all just kind of snow covered. They weren't colorful. None of them stood out from one another. Look at it now. She made sweaters for every building in town. Things began to change in that little town. News spread of this remarkable girl who never ran out of yarn, and people came to visit from all around the world to see the sweaters and to shake Annabelle's hand. One day, an archduke who was very fond of clothes sailed across the sea, and he demanded to see Annabelle. "Little girl," said the archduke, "I would like to buy that miraculous box of yarn. I am offering you $1,000,000. "No, thank you," said Annabelle, who was knitting a sweater for a pickup truck. The archduke's mustache twitched. Can you twitch your mustache? I don't know how to do that because I don't have a mustache. $2,000,000, he said. "No, thanks," Annabelle said, shaking her head. $10,000,000, said the archduke. "Take it or leave it." "Leave it," said Annabelle. "I won't sell the yarn." And she didn't. So that night, the archduke hired 3 robbers. Oh man, this is getting serious, isn't it? They stole the box and took it to the archduke, who set off across the snow and sailed back across the sea. You see their ladders here at the house so that they could climb the ladders and rob her. He went back to his castle. The archduke put on his favorite song and sat in his favorite chair. And he took out the box. He lifted the lid. He looked inside. What did he find? An empty box. That's right. His mustache quivered. It shivered. It trembled. The archduke hurled the box out the window. That means he threw it, only with a lot of emphasis, because he was really upset. He shouted, "Little girl, I curse you with my family's curse. You will never be happy again." He doesn't seem like a really sweet guy, does he, friends? But look here on this little piece of ice. What is that? There it goes. It's floating away across the ocean. Look who it found. It floated its way back to Annabelle into Mars and their beautiful little town. It turned out she was happy again. The end. Look, there's all the kitty cats in Mars and the tree with a sweater. Thank you for listening to my book today, boys and girls. I hope you enjoyed it. Have a great rest of your day, and make sure that today you're like Annabelle and you're finding things that make you happy, that you're sharpening the saw, and that you're having fun with friends. Bye-bye.